In this video, we're going to explore what happens when supply or demand changes in a market. When something shifts, like a change in consumer preferences or production costs, it affects the supply and demand curves. We'll learn how to find the new equilibrium and see how both the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity adjust to these changes.
We want to predict market changes from either a supply or demand shift. What that means is what happens to an equilibrium market price and quantity. Does it go up or down? And then two, how does the market adjust back to that new equilibrium? Right, I'm going to go through an example here, and I'm going to give you a recipe to do a problem like this. So the application will be the federal government is going to build a network of fast charging stations across the U.S. interstate network. And so what's going to happen to the equilibrium price and quantity of electrical vehicles if now we have all these fast chargers, I should say more fast chargers across the nation? So our recipe we have to do is, one, is the supply or demand curve shifting or both? So you need to decide what is going on there. Two, is that shift an increase or decrease? So we're going to move that curve left or right. And then three, determine how those prices and quantities will change in the new equilibrium. So remember this three-part recipe to be able to solve a problem like this. Okay, nothing really new here. I'm just repeating things. We want to determine either supply or demand shifts, what happens to that market quantity and equilibrium, and how do we adjust back to that market. The same example here, the federal government's going to build a network of fast chargers across the U.S. interstate network so that drivers will have lower costs to using electrical vehicles. All right, so we have price of an EV, we have quantity of EVs, and this is going to be the market for EVs. All right. We always start from an initial equilibrium. So we have a demand, supply. We'll have an equilibrium price and quantity to start off with. So let's call this P star 1 and Q star 1. Our initial equilibrium prices and quantities. The next step, we have what's the shock going to do to our demand or supply curves. So when I read this, I think, well, now it's going to be cheaper for me to use an electrical vehicle. If I have access to these fast chargers, it's going to make it easier. I don't have to worry as much about running out of energy. And so the benefit to using or owning an electrical vehicle now goes up because it's just so much easier. Okay. So our shock is going to be a demand increase. So demand 2 or new demand. So, okay. All right. So at this new demand, we have this shock. The new demand now increases because of this fast charging network. At the old equilibrium price of P1, let's say we don't have an adjustment yet, but at the price of P1, we now have quantity supplied QS and the new quantity demanded quantity QD. Whenever we have quantity demanded greater than quantity supplied, we will have a shortage. So there will be a shortage of EVs unless the price adjusts. Okay. So whenever there's a shortage, buyers and sellers will bid up the price of this market, reducing the quantity of that shortage until we get to that new equilibrium B. All right, so we start from equilibrium point A and we move to equilibrium point B. What does that do to our prices and quantities? So now we have a new equilibrium price P2 where supply crosses demand, right? Our new demand crosses new supply. So we'll get a new equilibrium price and we'll get a new equilibrium quantity, Q2 star. So we see that if the federal government did this, it would increase the prices of electrical vehicles and it would also increase the quantities of sales.